Hello again! Today we are doing the ultimate guide to drawing manga eyes. And for this we are going to touch all the basics we need to know. Starting from the shape, going on through the iris where we talk about light reflections and coloring, and concluding with the positioning of eyes in the frontal view. And whenever we learn something new, we should always consider doing some research. So if you Google manga eyes, you would find a ton of different examples, many different styles, from fan art to professional mangaka drawings. And I found there are three main types. And the first type I want to talk to you about is the classical shoujo manga eye. So here you have shoujo manga eyes from different artists, and what they all have in common is like they are very big and beautiful. Here we have a very prominent example of Tanemura Arina. She's also a very famous mangaka doing beautiful shoujo manga eyes. I actually learned a lot from her. But also other artists like Takeuchi Naoko, famous for doing Sailor Moon, big eyes, very round, many light reflections, and lots of detail going on. The second type of eye I want to talk to you about is the classical shonen manga eye. So shonen manga are known for having much action and fights in them. Usually the lead is a male. And these eyes are a lot more rectangular, I would say. So here's an example where we have both, right? A jolly, funny character having very round eyes like Sailor Moon, but also a very serious character like Denji from Chainsaw Man. So serious in a way. Yeah, they are a lot more narrow, a lot more pointy. They have sharp edges to them. If you look for serious, straight serious manga eyes, you would also see that, like sharp edges, narrow, and very rectangular. So the last type I want to talk to you about is the mysterious type. Mysterious and intelligent characters often have cat eyes, and these eyes are usually triangle shaped, just like Mao Mao from the Apothecary Diaries. She has these beautiful cat eyes, or also Frieren from Frieren. Here you have another example of eyes that are a bit more triangle shaped. And I think they are somewhat in the middle between the cute round style and the serious rectangular style. So now that we did some research, we can finally start the drawing, starting with shapes. And like I said, for cute and serious and mysterious characters, there are three basic shapes that we can use. So the first one is the oval or round shape for cute shoujo characters like Sailor Moon. Here we use big round shapes, especially ovals, because they give a soft, friendly, and approachable look. For cool and serious shonen characters like Denji from Chainsaw Man, we use narrow rectangles. These create a sharp, dynamic, and a confident appearance. And for mysterious characters like Frieren or Mao Mao from the Apothecary Diaries, we go with triangles. They add a sense of tension, intelligence, and maybe a little bit of intrigue. What I'm doing, I'm just giving you a table for some overview and basic sketches of how each of these eyes is going to look like. Don't worry, this is not going to be it, right? So we are going to draw each of these types in detail regarding sketching, regarding coloring, regarding light reflection, regarding positioning. So after watching this video, you would be able to draw all of these shapes. Of course, it is going to take a little bit of practice, and for that, please don't be too strict on yourselves. Me too, I cannot do it right on every take, and I suggest if it doesn't look 100% like I did, doesn't mean it looks bad, right? So do your own approach and be kind to yourself. So here we have the three types: oval, rectangle, and triangle. And I think here we can already see how the difference in the personalities plays out. So for the first step, we are going to do a detailed sketch of each of these eyes. And for that, I would like you to keep in mind the basic shape, right? So we are starting with the cute shoujo character, And basically, whenever you draw a manga eye, I would suggest starting with the frame. And the frame should always follow the basic shape you are aiming at. So for this one, I'm making it big and round. Especially the upper lash line is going to be as round as possible. And so what you're going to do first is you're going to do the basic frame like I did here. You're going to thicken it in a way that it resembles the lash line, and then you can add everything else. I know this is going to be very sped up, so the focus here is the frame. In later chapters of this video, we are going to get into detail on how I'm doing the iris and the light reflections, just as an example. So this is just an example for the frame. Secondly, the serious frame. Also for this one, I'm starting with the frame, and while doing the frame, I'm keeping in mind the rectangle. So when you look at different styles of shonen manga, you would see that they do vary in width and in height. So for some characters, the height is bigger, for some it's more narrow. But for this, for the sake of explaining it, I'm going to do the stereotypes, right? So for this one, if you want to look as serious as possible, you should go as narrow as possible, right? So we're going to do it very narrow, and the edges are going to be very sharp. So as you can see, for this one, the rectangle is kind of tilted. It almost looks like a parallelogram. So yeah, just keep that in mind. And for this one as well, doing really quick the iris and the light reflection so that you can see the overall result. But don't worry, we're going to cover this in detail later. So for this, all you need to know is for serious type characters, I'm going to draw a rectangle. Concluding the shapes with the triangle, the last type of eye, the mysterious type, we're going to cover here as well. This one is a bit more tricky. So we are doing a triangle, but the upper lash line still needs to be a bit curved. Of course, it can be straight, but it will give it a very, very different look. A look that is usually used in chibi kind of situations when the character is very emotional, but usually to give it a bit of a natural look, which is a funny thing to say when talking about drawing manga, is to give the upper lash line a bit of a curve. So here we have it. Also the detailed view of the iris and the light reflection. We are going to cover that later, but that's just to give you the general concept. So for each of these eyes, I kept in mind the basic shape when drawing the frame. Always start by drawing the frame, sketch it really quick, then thicken the frame so it has the visual you want to achieve, and then you can move on. So now that we have finished frame, we can move on by doing the iris. And the first thing we are going to cover when talking about drawing the iris is light reflections. So light reflections are also something that is very specific when it comes to drawing manga eyes. It's like a very basic characteristics in comic when it comes to drawing manga. And even though they are fairly easy to do, they do have a lot of meaning in them, right? So we are going to do light reflections also for each of these types, starting with the cute type. So when thinking about cute anime characters, cute manga characters, they always have a lot of personality going on, a lot of emotion going on. And this is not only portrayed by the general size of the eye, but also by the size of the light reflection, which should, by the way, follow the basic shape of the eye. So next we are going to talk about the serious type. Here we can go a bit more low-key on the light reflection. This is usually a bit smaller because I know this is very stereotypical, but they don't show that much emotion in that way usually. So that's why you can go a bit lighter for the serious type. Okay, moving on to the mysterious type. Here we can do somewhat in the middle, I think. So the eyes are not as big as for the cute type and not as small as for the serious type. I think there should be some kind of middle ground for mysterious eyes, but I tend to be more serious, so they are not as big as for the cute eye. For all of these, make sure that the light reflection follows the shape of the eye, and I would suggest to put a bigger one in the upper corner, left or right, depending from where the light comes from, and then add a second one on the opposite side that is slightly smaller. And now we can finally move to my favorite step, which is the coloring. I'm doing the basic sketch first, and then you can do the basic color for the eye. You can do whatever color you like. I usually fill in the whole thing, and then I create a transition from the top where I lay out the color so that it's a bit more saturated, a bit more stronger, and going lighter on the bottom. Next up, I'm doing my line art for the iris, which is usually the same tone as for the base shape, but a bit darker, and then I'm going to block in the pupil with pure black. When doing big eyes, you can add lots of details, and I usually do that by adding small strokes following the shape of the eye. I have learned this from very big manga artists that also do a similar approach. Pictures for reference. The next step I'm going to show you was such a game changer when I learned drawing manga eyes. So you basically add black on the upper side of the iris, create a transition that is connected with the pupil. I have learned this a couple of years ago, and I ever since started drawing my eyes that way. This is also something I learned from several different manga artists that also do the same thing. It just gives a very interesting, very nice effect that I really like. The last step for the coloring is doing the lashes, right? So you just fill in your sketch with a dark fine liner or whatever, and you also add lashes. I think it looks better if you just do a couple of lashes, and the style of lashes should fit the style of eye you're drawing. So big eyes, big lashes, smaller, serious eyes, smaller lashes, and so on. Just get a nice curve and then draw them basically going from the lash line. So for the next type of eyes, for the serious eyes and also for the mysterious eyes, I'm doing a very, very fast time lapse, just you can see. But just so you know, the steps are the same. Base color, transition from the top with the base color, filling in the pupil, then adding another transition using black, connecting it with the pupil, and of course always leave the light reflection out so it stays white. And now we can finally talk about positioning and size. I did sketch the head beforehand so we can use it for this chapter. So basically we are doing the same thing now, again, for all three types of eyes that I introduced you to. And what you would do with the cute eye is you would start drawing it slightly above the earlobes, right? And because it is so big, a couple of rules don't apply that you would usually follow, like the distance between the eyes should be the width of one eye. That does not work when the eyes are that big. It will look ridiculous. So it's totally fine if the eyes are a bit closer in that case. So basically the lower eyelid should start slightly above the earlobe. And then I think, so at least in my opinion, the upper lash line, like the lash line, can basically end, or the eye can end where the ears end, just like I did in the sketch. So for the serious type, the eyes should be a bit higher, just because they are a lot smaller, they don't take as much space, so they should be a bit higher. And also the distance in this case is very important, right? If they are too close, it looks goofy. If they are too far away, the person looks like a reptile. You may don't want any of this. So what are you doing? Basically, you should draw 3 rectangles in the face, where the middle rectangle, the center of that should be right where the nose is, right? Basically like you are drawing glasses. This will help you and lead your way for drawing the eyes. Then you add just your guidelines, basically 1 at the top, 1 at the bottom of the eye, and 1 in the middle. This is going to help you, and then you can start sketching the eyes. So now going on with the mysterious eye, it's basically very similar to the cute eye, right? So here, because the eyes are slightly bigger, especially in this type, like the way I sketched it, you can, or you should, have them a bit closer to each other. So, and that's it for positioning and also for this video. So, quick recap. We did talk about basic shapes, and we did talk about the 3 basic shapes: the cute, the serious, and the mysterious type. We also covered light reflections, and that they are bigger in cuter eyes and smaller in serious and mysterious eyes. And we talked about coloring, going from the base color, adding details, adding gradients, and concluding with positioning and sizing, and how the different styles of eyes affect the positioning and sizing for each character. I hope you liked this video. Tune in if you want to see more of that. Please comment if you have any questions or remarks. I'm always happy to get feedback, and I hope you have a beautiful day. Bye!